So welcome Strategy Battle Chemist to our GBHL YouTube video. You're here with your host GBHL Damian, and this is my hobby vlog number 18. So, having completed the slog of those elves over the last 10 weeks, I've now been able to move on and keep working on a few other bits. So hopefully there's been more regular updates from me going forward. So the first thing I have for you this week is another 4Ground building. It's another building from the Mordenberg range, which I've completed this week, and it's also the first in the range that they call the Dockside dwellings. So you get, there's the Mordenberg kind of high street houses, which are the ones you've seen me assemble before, but this is the part of a new series. They've got 3 of these, I've got all 3 of them, that are called Dockside dwellings. And these are obviously built to look ever more and more like Lake Town. The main difference being that down the bottom, they have these kind of wooden panellings instead of the plasterboard, make them look a little more rickety. And the overall shape of them is also a bit more rickety. They have a little bit more charm and a bit more character to them, but of course they still fit in well with the other ones in the range. There's a new chimney stack for these ones as well, so you get these kind of elaborate chimneys, and there's actually a whole bunch of options for your chimneys that you can make different ones out of, which is kind of cool. So as always with the 4Ground buildings, they come apart very nicely. No problems with this one fitting like I had last time, but this top level of the roof just pulls off, and then if we look inside, we've got these lovely detailed little windows here in the eaves. Little trapdoor down with a removable ladder, which is kind of cool. Spin that around, you got that over there as well. And let's put the ladder out. As I lift this off here, we've then got the ground floor down here with, as ever, the little doors that kind of open in and open outwards, which is very, very cool. So another cracking building I was very, very happy with. Show you the constituent pieces. There we go. So again, can't praise these kits enough. Absolutely love them. Another building to add to my little town, and I'm very excited about getting some games in on this board once I've finished. Well, certainly all the houses. Maybe not. Maybe I won't need to wait till I've done the watchtower, because God knows how long that'll take. Once I've got all the houses done, I'm looking forward to having a game around it. So there we go. That one was completed, and what's also kind of cool, and I haven't shown you before, is, look over here, I'm also working on the next one, which I thought I'd give you a little look at. So this is this one, the Fabled Realms Mordenberg Dockside Dwelling number 2, and it's essentially the same as this one, but it's ever so slightly bigger, and it's got some more complicated features. So we have this, you've seen these before, but the little walkways with the kind of wonky platforms, because this building will have 2 doors. Now I'll show you how these go together. So this is the very top part of the roof at the moment that's gluing. That bit's nearly finished. As you can see on here, there's these runner bits that you then put along the top. So that still needs to be added. So that's the kind of difference. This is where you see the difference in the size of them. That when we just looked at this one, there were 3 levels, 1, 2 and 3. Whereas this one actually, or 3 pieces I should say, whereas this one actually has 3 levels, because this piece here is the bottom level at the moment. Then you're going to put that one on top, and then you've actually got an attic level, and so this roof piece will eventually sit here like that, so you get a 3-story building, which is kind of cool. So this is what the downstairs looks like to begin with. So these bits here, you can see all the kind of panelling is still to go on, so you get these flat walls, the detailing inside is done, and then you glue on these kind of pieces to the walls, which are those struts there. You glue those on, and then you glue the plaster or the boards into the gaps with these pieces here. It's kind of cool. So yep, that's the bottom, that's just drying there now. You can still see the rubber band clamps that are absolutely essential for building 4Ground houses. I'm holding that together. We then have the attic level here that's drying at the moment. And then we have the first floor, which is also still drying with its rubber band clamps on. So that's that. That one's coming along nicely as well. Just need to let that dry, and then I'll be adding on the wooden framework and the plasterwork panelling. So not too far off that one being completed at the moment. So there we go. That's kind of what I've been doing in Mordenberg, my scenery, but I've also been working on some models. The next models I'm going to paint, and I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so next up, I thought I'd show you some of the models I'm planning on working on now. I've spent a couple of hours watching the tennis the other day and cleaning these up, and I'm going to go through some of the models I'm going to paint next. Now what I've basically done is, having finished my elves, I was very pleased to get that kind of thing I had to do off my back, as it were, and I just got to dig through my old box and pick out a bunch of models that I fancied painting. So these are just models that I've wanted to do for a while and that I've had cleaned up so I can give them a go. So first up we have this guy. Oh, this is going retro. This is a Twilight Ring Wraith, long out of production, that I was very lucky to get off Sam Jeffrey, I believe, a while back. I've been wanting to paint him up for a while now. I'm not actually sure if this little hook here is meant to be here, if that's meant to be a hole in this blade or if that's a bit of flash. And I think I'm just might Google that and find out before I undercoat him. But yeah, this is a classic GW model, and I've wanted to paint him up to use. I mean, he looks, I think, like the Witch King appears in Unexpected Journey, so I think I'll be using him as a kind of alternate wraith. I know Sam does the same with a Twilight Ring Wraith model. I think it's pretty cool to see him on the table. So lots of kind of cool detail on here, very interesting and kind of unique sculpt, and I quite look forward to getting him done. We got him. We then have Saruman, and for anyone who watches the Plantier, you'll know that recently we voted this guy. Me and Tom agreed that this was the best Saruman pose ever. And if we get in there on the detail, you should hopefully see why. It's a cracking face, really good likeness to Christopher Lee. Looks really great. And I'm going to be painting this guy for the One Ring Painting Challenge this month. They're doing a Saruman challenge as a tribute to Christopher Lee, and I am going to be entering that. It's the first challenge I've entered all year, actually. Just haven't been painting anything that's matched up. So I'm going to be painting this guy. So this guy definitely will be done in the next month. He's either going to be the first one or the second one I start painting, I think. But it's a really cool model. I can't wait to get him done. I've got, as you might have seen again in that episode of the Plantier, I've got the Saruman with the Plantier painted, and Saruman on horse painted, and Sharky painted. But I've wanted for a while a Saruman who could represent Saruman the White if you use him in a good army. So my Saruman on foot's got the Palantir, so it looks a bit iffy. So I wanted a kind of ambiguous Saruman, and I think this one fits the bill nicely. So I'll be painting him up fairly soon. Then we have Gandalf. We have a Gandalf sculpt, and this is the Breaking of the Fellowship Gandalf. It's not the Khazad-dûm Gandalf, although the poses are very similar. This is the one from the Breaking of the Fellowship box set. It was released about 2006. It's a lovely sculpt. And again, I painted Rivendell Gandalf up last summer, I believe, and I kind of get a hankering like once a year to paint a Gandalf. So I think this is the one I'm going to do next. It's a pretty cool action pose, and it's just, to my mind, a slightly better version of the Khazad-dûm sculpt. There was one problem with it that you can't really see now because I've fixed it, but he was leaning. He leans directly forward if you leave him as he is. So I've kind of used green stuff. I was kind of tilting him backwards, and I've used green stuff to build up this mound so that he's standing up straight on the base, which you won't see once it's all textured. So there's Gandalf. Next up we have another Gandalf. Yep, this is another one that I've been wanting to do for ages. I absolutely love this model. This is, of course, the Dol Guldur Gandalf. It comes in the twin pack with Bilbo, and it has the removable hat. I want him to be looking like he's going through Dol Guldur and fighting, so I decided to leave him with the hat off, which I thought would be pretty cool. It's a great little twin pack, and I painted the Bilbo up. Was Throne of Skulls last summer? Yeah, it was. I painted the Bilbo up at the start of last year, so just over a year ago, and I assembled and cleaned up this guy at the same time, but just never got around to doing him because that year I chose to paint Rivendell Gandalf. So I'm obviously going to be picking one of these two Gandalfs to do next. It will probably be this one, I think. There's also, I've done a little conversion work on this. For any of you might remember, if you've got this, his staff was incredibly short, and his staff, when you get it, I hope you're going to out of focus, his staff finishes about here. It's a very small staff. So what I basically did was I removed the top of it and then put I think it's a paper clip as memory serves, paper clip coming up through here, and then covered the paper clip in liquid green stuff to kind of give it this hopefully like wooden appearance. I think it's come out quite well, and is a much better length staff. If I can, I know I took some photos of it at the time, I'll dig those photos out and put them up now to kind of show you some of the conversion work and like how I did it. But it was a version I was very pleased with. Fairly simple, but I think very much worth doing. It's also a fantastic sculpt. It's a really good face in there, lots and lots of detail. So I'm looking forward to getting him done. Oh, where have we gone? Looking forward to getting to him done. So he's definitely a contender for the first one. I don't know which one of these models I'm going to paint first, but he's definitely a contender, mainly because he's already undercoated. So I'll have to wait for a bit. So I'm going to go and undercoat all these guys in a minute. And if I've got some time while I'm waiting, I might well make a start on this. Next up, another cracking model. It's Dwayne the Broken. Way! So this model I absolutely love. When the very first trailer for The Hobbit came out, when it was only 2 films, I got so excited about the glimpses of the Dol Guldur stuff, of like the idea that you'd see Gandalf kind of battling Thrain and saving him and everything. And I was so excited to see all that stuff in the first film, and it wasn't in there. And then the second film, and it wasn't in there. And finally, with the extended version of Desolation of Smaug last year, we got to see the full Dol Guldur sequence. And so I was very, very excited by that, and I love this model. And I've basically just been waiting for a chance to kind of get to grips with him, and he's another strong contender for which model I'm going to paint first, if I'm brutally honest, because I really like this guy. He's relatively little, so I think he'll be quite quick to paint. So there's him. And finally, our final new model is this one. It's the new Elrond. And I'm going to speak up in defence of the new Elrond, because I know we've said this before, me and Tom on the Planetary, that we like this model. A lot of people don't like this model. I think it's fantastic. And I don't particularly get the hate. I absolutely love it. The pose is brilliant. I think he looks really, really cool. Also, I've never painted Elrond, so I'm looking forward to getting to grips with this. I think it's a pretty good likeness, Hugo Evening, but I'm kind of excited to paint my first Elrond. I will say, however, that as much as the sculpt is gorgeous, like so many of the Hobbit, the Battle of Five Armies Finecast models, it was an absolute pig to assemble. If you can believe it, this model came in 5 pieces. The body's one, this little bit in here is one, the cloak is one, and the 2 arms are separate. And the problem with that is that you have to, if you imagine it joins up on 4 parts, let's put this down so I can show you. If you imagine you have to glue the cloak onto the body, and then glue this arm here to the cloak here, this arm here to the shoulder, and these 2 hands together, it's a nightmare, because which bit do you glue first? Because you don't know what's going to be in the right position. So trying to line it all up was absolutely horrendous. Also, you'll see that the green stuff work around the cloak. This had to be bent, which is quite easy to do with Finecast just by heating it up. But if you imagine this cloak that's currently bent around there was actually coming off this way. It was a straight piece of Finecast. So that took quite a lot of bending and heating up to then push it down into that gap. And then because of that, I obviously had to do a lot of green stuffing work to kind of finish the cloak off and put it under his arm, and then kind of cover up the join there. And like they've done on so many, they just make these baffling choices with how to split the model up. So this arm here has got hair in there, and then the hair kind of joins on here, and that join actually worked quite well, to be fair. I'm going to focus, there you go. That will look alright, I think, once it's been painted and everything. But yeah, it's just baffling, I think, the way they assemble these. But that said, it is still a great pose, and I'm very I think it's very, very cool. I also did some I've changed the actual pose all over, in that he's running, the way he's running, it almost makes him look like he's falling over. If you get the idea, when you glue it down, he's kind of like that angle almost. And so what I've basically done is, again, heated this up, and I just kind of stood him up a bit more, so that you still get the same idea of the pose. He's still running, but he's not leaning over quite so much. I think it makes it look slightly more realistic. I also then heated this foot up in there, and then bent it down, because again the foot was pointing forward, so I think it matches the pose a bit better. So there was a fair bit of frustrating work to do on the model, but now it's ready to go. I think it's fantastic. I think the pose and the quality of the sculpt are absolutely superb. So I'm very much looking forward to doing him. Last thing I had to do, there's only one very small point of contact here which I wasn't happy about, so I did a little drill hole, put a dressmaking pin through it, and then drilled up into the rock, so he's pinned in place, which should hopefully secure a bit more. So there we go. There are my 6 models. As I said, my current picks, I think, are 1, 2, 3. I think those guys, so Saruman, Dol Guldur, Gandalf and Thrain, are going to be the 3 that I do first. But I'm willing to take your advice. So why don't you comment below about which one of these guys you think I should do first. Bear in mind, this is currently Friday evening. You're going to be watching this on Monday, and I probably would have made a start on one of them. But as long as there's an overwhelming majority, I might well try and take the second option off you guys. So there we go. There's no guarantee, of course, that these models are going to be the next 6 I paint or anything, but they're just very high up the painting queue. So there we go. There's a little update on what I've been up to this week. Hopefully we'll be back next week with one of these, having made fairly serious progress on at least one of these heroes. Until then, don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Support your Hobbit hobby, and happy strategy battle gaming.